What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another JS drop from this guy. In this drop, Domitrius is joining us from Netlify to talk about fetching Discord scheduled events using Netlify and 11. Sit back and enjoy this 90-minute training, which will bring you from setup steps all the way to project completion. Take it away, Domitrius.
Cool. Okay, yeah, so today we're going to be learning how to fetch Discord's scheduled events. So Discord basically has created a new way recently to, and if you're in Discord, you've probably seen it, to schedule events internally that link to external events on whatever other platform, and to like channels inside of the Discord as well. That got me really excited. I build community professionally, so this was one of the things that kind of pointed me in the direction. I was really sick of having to rely on Meetup for all of my attendance records and events and things like that, and I wanted some way to pool into a self-hosted type of site. And one of the first steps was playing around with the Discord API to pull in the scheduled events, the metadata for the events, and kind of put up my own website. So for everybody who doesn't know me, who the heck is Domitrius Clark? Well, I got the answer. I'm a career transitioner, bootcamp graduate, former UI engineer turned DX. I work as a Jamstack community engineer, completely made up title. Welcome to my life at Netlify, where I get to do kind of all things Jamstack ecosystem, which is really cool. I shepherd the ecosystem and community towards inclusivity, education, and overall support for all the Jamstackers. I maintain the community Discord, jamstack.org website, and I help empower other community organizers and learners around the community. Put a bunch of links in there if you want to, hop in and enjoy. So in today's workshop, we're basically going to be going through utilizing 11 and Netlify on-demand builders to keep our events fresh as they come in on an interval. Netlify has this really cool feature called TTL inside of their on-demand builders that basically allows you to kind of do a scheduled rebuild of individual pages as you need them. Instead of having to go and rebuild the entire site, as you would usually have to do with these static sites, we get to kind of point in on one particular page and regenerate when it's needed. So our goal today is going to be to have the 11 site deployed to Netlify, all have our own new guilds. They call them guilds or Discord servers that we can pull from, and it'll tell you how to, we're going to basically build a new bot inside of the developer portal, add it, all of that fun stuff. So we're probably gonna have a little bit of lull in the beginning while everybody kind of gets their accounts provisioned and goes through kind of making sure that we have a GitHub account, a repo created to house our workshop. We actually don't need the repo right now. I have a little bit later where we create the repo using the GitHub CLI, a Discord account and a server for us to connect our bot to. This is really, really important. And then a Netlify account to deploy our application at the end. As you see here, we have all of the steps laid out. Basically, each step is its own self-guided tour of how to get done each individual step. I'll be walking you through those steps, but feel free to interrupt me, tell me to shut my mouth, let me know that you have any questions. Whatever you need, I'm happy to oblige. I wanted to make this as easy and as kind of interactive as possible, where I don't have to do so much kind of like just lecturing at you, and we can kind of just build this together. It'll be really fun. So if everybody could take a second, make sure that they have all of their accounts provisioned. And oh gosh, 1 second, my monitor just flashed. Okay, cool, awesome. Okay, if everybody could take a second and go and provision their accounts, and then if we can get like some thumbs up on the Zoom, whatever works, to let me know that we're kind of ready to move into step one. And step one is going to be a little bit more within the account side, so nothing too much that I'll be kind of hands-on with you. But I have all of the steps created for you, links out to the developer portal, and then we have a couple of CLIs that we're going to want to install as well. So let's get through the admin part, and once that's done, we'll hop into two, and that's where we really start diving into some code and some scaffolding and things like that. So I kind of just threw a ton at all of you. So if there's any questions that you have up to this point, I'm happy to field them. If not, take your time, get it ready, and then we'll dive in. I'll bring up the.
Hey Dom, so I make my Discord bot and then add it. Do I need to create my own Discord server?
Yeah, and that's super easy. So you just create it right inside of Discord, and then you'll be able to get it. It'll even show you here like what you need. Like it'll let you get the bot ID, the token, things like that you'll need to store inside of our end files. but you need a server for that.
Okay.
And it won't matter. This is a server that can be throwaway. This can be used. Basically, I wanted to teach you how to get the bot into a server that wasn't shared, so we didn't do anything malicious and Discord kind of bans us. I wanted to be able to have everyone have their own server, set it up so that when we left this, if you do have a Discord that you maintain, you'll know how to add it to that server and get started.
All right, I'm with you. So create the bot and the server.
Yep, bot. So you'll create your account, you'll create the server, then you can create the bot to add it to the server. And then right here is where it'll be a little bit confusing. So here, when you do have your bot client ID, you're going to want to change out this little variable here to what your client ID is, because this is basically an OAuth 2. We're basically sidestepping how we're going to auth the bot into the server by just having the link handy. This was going to be forever the most difficult part. So everything from here is really easy. Everything from here is really hands-on. That's why I was so nervous when I came in late. I was like, this is going to kill it. Everyone's going to be stuck on the account creation. Has everybody here used Discord before? Or is this anybody's first time?
We actually have a company Discord.
Oh, rad. So this is fits right in. So you've moved all of your communications into Discord for the company?
It's a kind of our plan B.
Okay.
We still use Slack primarily, but we have a Discord, and we're all in there because we also engage with the community there, and kind of have a this.community Slack where everybody can chit chat, talk about our events, and we could, like, while we're doing shows like that, we can do things in there with people.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to Sarah.
Post a link on this video too.
Definitely post a link to that. Yeah, I'm not even in it. I'm sad at this point.
Tom, we gotta fix that.
It's okay. I'm like the most overwhelmed Discord person in the world. If you saw my sidebar, you'd be like, I will not be sending you a link. I am so sorry.
I'll still send it to you.
If you I don't know if anybody knows this, but you can folder up your servers in the side of Discord and do things like full folder settings, like muting for certain notifications, things like that. So if anybody else gets overwhelmed like I do, it's a really great way to kind of position yourself.
Okay, I have a question.
Cool.
When I try to make my application in the developer portal, it wants me to verify my email, but this is like, I've had my Discord account for quite a while, and I don't know how to trigger the email verification thing. I don't have an email or anything with it.
Oh, like attached to the Discord account?
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
But like, I've had this account for a while, so it should be verified, but it won't let me make an application without verifying my email.
Would you be able to go into, like, when you're on Discord itself, would you be able to change it to an email that you could verify through? Because I imagine it would have it inside of your account settings, what email it's trying to send to, and then.
Okay, so I tried to click reveal on it and it's let me send a new verification email. So maybe that works.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't say bot in the side menu, but it does say you can make an application, is that what we want to do?
Yeah, so when you make the application, inside of that application, there's a sidebar for the bot. So you basically just you create the application and then you're saying, okay, this is going to be a bot. Because there's two different ways that you can have applications through Discord's API, where it depends on like the roles that you need it for, the types of security you need to access the API, things like that. So basically it just creates the application and then the bot becomes the application. And you can have like two separate identities inside of an application too, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, I'm looking. So I didn't go into the bot subsection and turn on the bot switch, and I got OAuth 2 application does not have a bot.
I definitely probably a me problem. I should have put that in there. I'll put that in the steps.
Beep boop beep boop beep boop.
Once we get a little farther.
Ooh, I got it.
We're good.
Jesse got it.
I was about to say I'm gonna do a spot check. Maybe about 5 more minutes if everybody's on the same page, and if not, like I'd said before, we'll be able to. I'm already all hooked into the Discord bot on my side, and I can it's a server that doesn't exist for more than just this workshop, so I can probably share out the details without it being an issue. Anybody else encountering any trouble, or are we looking good?
I can't seem to find the guild ID.
So if you go to the to your Discord and you right click the server that you're utilizing, you'll see at the bottom it'll say copy ID, and you can grab the guild ID right from there.
Oh, I don't have that option. I just have
Do
like
you need
create
developer mode for that? You might need developer mode on. And
Yeah,
to turn developer mode on, you go to you click on your face, and then where is it? It's not
I
there.
found that.
Okay.
Developer mode. And oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was a
I
trick.
think you can also go from.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where the exact
Settings.
button is.
It's in advanced.
It's different on a Mac than it is on Windows. It throws me off.
So down at the bottom, yeah, you go to the user settings, the little cog for user settings, and then hit advanced, and in here is the developer mode.
I don't know if this is the same thing. I had to go into Hot2 to find the client's ID. I don't know. Couldn't find it in bots. Is that the same thing?
The client ID and the guild ID are two separate IDs. So the client ID you'll need as well. The guild ID you'll get from your server once you turn the developer mode on.
Oh, okay.
Take some notes on some of the steps. My pen go. Sorry about that. Just taking some notes on what's missing. It's been so long since I did a workshop, so thank you so much for bearing with me on some of the missing steps here. Everybody holding up okay? We got about 3 minutes until we'll start moving on. Cool.
Oh,
Seeing some thumbs up.
Dustin took my invite. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my server.
Yeah, I'm gonna have fun with this. Just in case others aren't reading the chat, we had a question, where's the client ID? And the answer was in the OAuth 2 tab in the developer port.
Okay, I missed it. I'm not seeing, what's the other option for getting the guild ID? Because hovering over it doesn't show it to me. Is it in server settings?
So if you right click the server
Uh-huh.
and there's no copy guild ID in the settings. And if there isn't, you just got to
No.
turn on the developer mode.
Oh,
So you'll go
okay.
down right at the bottom at user settings.
uh-huh.
And then you can click advanced, which is like down towards the bottom,
Uh-huh.
and then developer mode toggled
There
on
we
in
go.
there.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome.
There we go.
And then just wanted to reiterate again, the last part of section 1 will be just installing the GitHub and Netlify CLIs and connecting those to your respective accounts. Each of these has a link to how to get started really quickly. Shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to get that done.
Where is the turn off the public bot? I've got the client ID, but I don't see the option to turn off the public bot.
At this point, oh god.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's under the bot tab, under OAuth 2, where you like add a profile picture. There's public bot.
Inside the application?
Inside, yep, application.
Yep.
OAuth 2 bot with like the little puzzle piece.
Yep, I see that. And then when I go into it, it says build a bot.
Yep, click that button. Yeah.
Of course.
Add bot. Okay,
Now the application has a bot attached to it.
got it.
Yeah, it doesn't make it very like noticeable once you have the bot attached. It just treats it as a basic application. The bot just allows you to have a little bit more granular control for permissions.
But then we want to turn off the bot, turn off
public.
Turn off public. Because we want your bot to only be usable by you. If it's a public bot, others can download it, bring it to their servers. And that's something that you can turn on later if it's something you so choose. But for this, we just need it to be for use in your own server.
Okay.
So I can't seem to find the client ID.
So let me.
So I've been able to create a bot, but I can't find the client ID.
Yeah, let me log in the application portal real quick.
Client ID is supposed to be in OAuth 2 general.
Okay, same.
So right inside of OAuth 2 should be your client ID. Yeah, I see a question about server and guild ID. Yeah, they named it server publicly, and then when you have to deal with it inside of the API, it's called a guild. And they love to differentiate their words from the API and what they release publicly. Very confusing. It's the second company I've worked with an API that just is like so confused. Notion was another one that was just like so lost inside of their docs, because they just called everything whatever they call it internally, and then externally it's whatever they want it to be.
Okay, and where do you get the token? The bot token?
So the bot token should be, it should have been when you go ahead. Somebody was gonna say something. Yeah, if you didn't get the token when you created the bot, you can just reset the token and
Okay.
and use the next one.
There it is. Cool. Thanks.
Like I said, this will be the biggest headache, and from here it should be smooth sailing.
I still can't seem to find the server ID here.
You're still having a hard time finding the guild ID.
Yeah,
So did you turn on developer mode?
that will be on the user tab.
So if you go to user settings, advanced, which is down towards the bottom, and then in here is developer mode, you can just toggle that on. And then once you toggle that on, when you hover your server, if you right click, you can just copy the ID right from there.
Where is the .env file at?
So just hold on to that and whatever text file that you have. We're going to be creating the .env file in the very next step. We'll scaffold out the whole project, and then we'll be able to kind of start utilizing our variables.
Okay, so then I'm stuck at that stage, or I can move past that and then just come back to it, or?
Yeah, for holding on to your variables, you can just grab them, put them somewhere safe, and then once we're in the next step, you'll be able to put them right into the .env file. Linda, I love to hear that we're good to go. That makes me feel very happy. And then if anybody is having any issues or they don't want to use the CLIs to do the pushing to GitHub and CLI, you can use the UI. And if that's faster for you, I have no problem with anybody doing that as well. So if you don't want to install CLIs locally or utilize them, I just wanted to show a really cool way to get done doing all of it in like 10 commands, and you're deployed and live and ready to go with the CI/CD pipeline. Good to go. Love this. Pouring in, thankfully. And like I said, I know we have limited time. I don't want to step on anybody else's schedules here. I'm going to do a little bit of copy and pasting as we go through a couple of the next steps, just because they're scaffolding, configs, package JSON scripts, things like that, that we don't really need to watch me fumble typing dev 3 times inside of a script and wonder, why is this guy teaching me anything?
Dev with 2 V's.
Right, exactly. I was the one testing my own workshop. I couldn't get anybody to test it. So I went through it 3 times, and I'm just finding myself typing the scripts, and I'm screwing it up. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm not just copy and pasting this. Jesse, I should have used you as my guinea pig. What was I thinking?
Oh, Matt, dude, I'm always available. Always up for a run through.
My own fault. I blame myself as usual. Cool. All right. I think if there's anybody that is having a dilemma, let me know. If not, we're gonna move on. Cool. Looks like everybody's good. Awesome.
Let's do it.
Great. Okay, cool. Now the fun stuff. So to get started, we're just going to set up some of our dependencies, get our project ready, and then by the end here, we'll have a project structure to set up so that we kind of know what we're digging into. So go ahead, run through this. I'll do it at the same time as y'all, so we can kind of watch, and then we will link up. It should take you no more than 5 to 8 minutes.
And Dom, if you don't mind answering this question while you're going,
For sure.
For those that aren't aware, what is 11D?
Yeah, so 11D is actually something I recently picked up joining Netlify. It's great when you get to work with the guy who created it. Static site generator that is actually moving to be this really kind of broad, usable generator. It was just static. We're now getting a lot more serverless built in, things like edge functions and things like that. But at its base, it is a static site generator akin to Gatsby. Kind of has a lot of the same ideologies as Gatsby, in that there's plugins that you can install. You can hook into its main processes really easily. And I just think it's a really nice light framework to get a lot of the work done that you would usually probably build towards one of the bigger frameworks. But I've been trying to pull back from just throwing React at every problem that I have. And I've been using 11D to kind of fill those gaps recently.
Thank you for that thorough answer.
Bump up the font here a bit. That's a little bit much. All right. And we'll just get these scripts over first. So we've got a few different types of scripts here that we're going to be using and utilizing that'll take the Tailwind and 11D script builders so that we can do CSS bundling and for our build when we want to kind of capture all the CSS that we do build with Tailwind. I feel like Tailwind is a really easy kind of project usability CSS framework that everybody can kind of get behind to do the workshop. And then 11D makes it really easy to kind of configure where you want your output to go. And then from there, when we deploy to Netlify, it'll just handle all of that built in with our TOML file that we'll create in a little bit. We're going to want to install some deps. Let's just go ahead and copy and paste these. So you'll see here we're using node fetch 2. It's a problem with ESM. So if you don't install it with the @2, we're going to run into some issues. So if you do run into those issues, it's probably your version for the installation of node fetch. Because we use a little bit older of a version of Node, so we don't have Node built in the new version yet. And then I got a couple of call outs here for what you're going to see kind of in this little weird build area where we're using the run S command and up here where we're using the run P command. A little bit of info there.
Do you not have Node installed because you're thinking about Bonner Deno?
So that. I will say, like, I am still finding the ways that I want to use Deno. I think that, like, we just got it recently in Edge functions, and the whole company's been going wild and trying to find really fun ways to utilize it. I haven't found that for myself just yet. Localization is the best thing that I can think of for utilizing things like Edge functions. And I haven't built anything recently, honestly, that's used much of that. Sucks when I had so much fun as a DXE because I got to kind of build a lot of fun and cool things, and then I went over to community and I was like, okay, this is a full-time job. I can't build fun things anymore. So we're just gonna set up our project structure. So this 11D folder will hold all of our 11D config. This is a great little practice tip to kind of utilize pulling all of your 11D, because 11D can get really large with the files that you start to do for the configuration. It's really nice to have a dedicated project folder for that. And you'll see earlier we actually set the path for the config inside of our build and inside of our dev environment. Super helpful for when the project starts to grow. All right, so we got 11D folder, a source folder, a Netlify folder. We're gonna set up some config files. And here. And we'll be diving into some of the project configuration reasonings as we go through the next steps. So if you have any questions now, I'm happy to answer them, but most of them should be answered as we go. And we should be Good to go. Then I'm pretty sure I forgot to put this in the config part, but we're going to want to add some pieces to our node modules so we're not throwing them up into our GitHub as we build. Should be dist. These are 3 that you're definitely going to want to. And then later we'll add another piece to our get ignore for the Netlify function, so we're not throwing all of our bundled function code up into GitHub as well. Everybody holding up all right? Anybody have any questions? Ready to move on to the next step?
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah, cool. All right, where the fun actually starts to begin. So here is the 11D configuration. This is kind of what I meant about once you start digging into 11D, you'll see how many ways you can tell 11D exactly the types of technologies you want to use, the templating languages you want to use. In this project specifically, we're going to be utilizing Nunjux. Just recently stumbled into the Nunjux world. It is really awesome, especially if you come from a more component-based background. You're used to things like React, Vue, Svelte, things like that. Nunjux fits right into being a really usable templating language for the kind of newer component generation. I had no idea of that until I started messing around with 11D myself. You are able to use most other templating languages. And if you start finding yourself wanting to do things like islands, which has been really huge, you can even go and 11D has recently created a new island package that lets you utilize things like React, Preact, Vue, and things like that. We're not going to cover that in this workshop, but it is something that you can do if that's something you're more comfortable with. So we'll just go into the config. And again, let's just do some copy paste so that y'all have some time to ask some questions. We're going to be setting up 2 different files here. We'll set up the config for 11D, which you'll see here. We're just letting 11D know we're going to be using Nunjux. Here's the directory that we're going to be pulling our code from build. And then, what are the expectations for templates within HTML and data. And then down here for the Netlify TOML, this TOML file basically just lets Netlify know the things that it needs to know as it tries to deploy. These are things that you can set up inside of the Netlify UI as well. It's just a little bit easier to throw it into a TOML file, let Netlify care about the headaches that come from it, and kind of move on. So we're just letting it know to build. You're going to want to run npm run build. And then it'll be looking in the dist directory, which is where 11D outputs all of our build to. And then we just want to, it actually defaults to this directory usually, but I like to do it just so that I don't ever get confused on where my functions are supposed to live and where Netlify thinks my functions are supposed to live. You can set up your own custom directories as you want, when you want. For this, we're going to use the default Netlify functions directory.
If you copy it and you run build and you get an errors, there's 2 commas missing.
Oh yeah, in the config, right up here.
Mhm.
Yeah, right
Yep.
there. At the end of 3 and yeah, there you go.
Let's update that. How you copy it over from a project and suddenly miss these commas
Without comment, yeah.
but other commas exist. I'm unsure. Welcome to Notion. I love my Notion, Jesse, but sometimes.
Boy, do I ever. I saw databases. I thought of you. I was like, database sinks. You go crazy?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I've been playing around with the Notion API a bunch lately for my personal project. I've been using Notion as my CMS, and it is a wild API. That thing is deep and dirty. So everybody looking okay? It should be a quick and easy one for everybody. Awesome. Let's head on over to the next step. All right, so this is just setting our base layout up. One of the really cool things about 11D is that you can set up a bunch of layouts. We're going to set up our base layout, which every page will basically utilize to scaffold out its HTML per page when it builds. You can do individual layouts that for individual pages when you scale out the project, but in this case, we'll only need one layout, which will be our base layout. So we'll utilize that to get started. I'm going to copy and paste all of that in here so we have a second to kind of talk about what's going on here. Again, utilize everything that I'm saying here. There's a bunch of information that I've written in for any kind of like details that you may miss as you're setting these things up. But basically, one of the really cool things about Netlify, about 11D, is the inside of your source folder, you have this _data and _includes. That's just a convention of 11D. Basically, while 11D is trying to build the output, it looks for specific directories to, grab things like layouts or nunjux partials, which you can kind of think of as like reusable bits of code for nunjux. It looks into these directories by default. The way that you saw we set earlier inside of our script for them to look for 11D to look inside of this _11D folder. You can also do similar things to set up another type of file structure that may work better for you, just inside of the 11D config. For this instance, though, we'll use the base defaults that 11D comes with and just keep pushing. So it's a little bit easier to kind of backtrack to the docs when you may need them. So inside of includes, and then in layouts, we'll create our base.nunjux file. We'll copy and paste in here. So you'll see, some weirdness, right? We've got an HTML structure that you're used to, one that you've seen before. But you're seeing, these kind of double bracket variable looking things that we got going on here. These are conventions of 11D themselves. So when using layouts look for inside of the data cascades. One of the really important pieces of 11D is the way that data is kind of pulled in and then prioritized as it's building pages. In this way, it basically lets you do things with the front matter for setting your title, setting a permalink, setting things for your redirects, really interesting things that you can do inside of the front matter. If anybody's used Astra before, kind of similar ideas to how we control a lot of the metadata through front matter. I would also, I've downloaded the Nunjux extension for highlighting. And if you're having any issues, you can actually go down to your language mode. Sometimes it'll auto detect HTML and be confused at what the heck you're doing with these brackets. You can change to Nunjux so that it'll give you some code highlighting once you install the extension. And then here you'll see we have this content pipe safe. Just a Nunjux convention to basically say, like, whatever content we put in, and you've seen similar conventions inside of Next.js, where you have, this big app._app.js that does a lot of the scaffolding for your HTML. And then when you want to import the individual pages, they'll live inside of wherever you've set up. We have a div, and then our main section. All of our new content will be set inside of here. And if anything breaks, it falls back to this safe keyword, which is, again, a built-in Nunjux feature, just to make sure that we're not breaking the build as we go. We explore some of that in here. And then you'll see we actually are already kind of utilizing some Tailwind. So what we want to do next is configure our Tailwind. I pulled this right from the docs. You actually don't need the Markdown or HTML file extensions. I left them in so that if anybody wants to build out from here and use those file extensions, you'll be good to go without much of a headache. So we'll just copy and paste that in, but we'll only be utilizing Nunjux files inside of here. And then we'll go to our styles because we have to import our Tailwind components, base, and utilities. You'll see I definitely forgot to turn Copilot off, so it's going to be yelling at me to make code changes as I go. Bear with me, please. And then our final piece that we're going to want to do just to check that this is all working is set up our base page, our base route. Similar to other kind of site generators and projects that we've been using, Next.js, Vue, or it would be Nuxt. Page-based routing is very similar inside of 11. So inside of our source file, whenever we make a new file, so we'll call this one index.nunjux. Oh, we already have that actually. This will be our home page right here. And then anything that we name from here. So if we were to name it like, events, eventually we'll have our events page. We would do events.nunjux. It would create our route for us as we build. So we were talking about the front matter earlier. Just triple tick, and then inside of there, we can add in our front matter, which will be our home page. And then you want to specify what layout we're going to be using. So you just, that's not layouts, that's layouts. So it basically knows what directory we're in because of the config that we did earlier. We pointed it towards the source directory as our main project. Sometimes in the wild, you'll see some people have it as site, and then inside of there, they'll list a lot of these same configurations that we have. We're going to be using source just because I'm so used to doing it from writing Next.js apps that it feels comfortable and at home for me. So layouts base.nunjux. And then we'll just add like an H1 saying welcome. And then let's clear this. Let's give it a go. So we'll do yarn dev and we'll fail. We love that. Where are we having an issue? Base.nunjux, unexpected token. What's going on here? Where did my title go? Yeah, that's right. Cool. So if you do not see this, let me know, and I will help you get to this working. If you do see this, great. We are off to a great start. And we have, as you'll see now, a few things going on. Our Tailwind's configured, 11D knows where our layouts are, and we can create pages with those layouts wrapping them. Everybody feeling good? Everybody looking good? Move on to the next one. Great. Love that. So this is where we'll dig into a little bit of like what we'll be doing with the GitHub and Netlify CLI. I just want to get this immediately up so that we can always have the feedback from our deploy previews, have our code up on GitHub and kind of keep pushing on from there. So we will start digging into what I hope works. This is something that I did completely last minute last night because I realized that I wanted everybody to be able to have a live site. So bear with me, please. And if you run into any issues, let me know and we can triage it together. So we'll initialize our Git repository. We can check what's going to be going in. Looks great. Cool. We can actually... We'll go and we'll add to our git ignore. I'm using yarn. If you're using npm, you can add yours. Just get the log file out. We'll commit with our initial commit. Don't yell at me for using git add space dot. I know that's the worst convention in the world. It's a nasty habit when you're doing workshops, but we're doing it anyway. And we're going to keep going and make it realize we never did that. Initial commit. Oh, not a question mark, a quote. And then here's where we get to dive into like the really cool stuff with the GitHub CLI. I don't know if everybody's used the GitHub CLI or not yet. It's really awesome. So we can do, I'm going to copy and paste this in just so I don't screw it up. But basically what we're doing here is we're creating the repo. We're going to give it the name, but actually it'll recognize the name here where you do this -s equals dot. That basically says, hey, the project that we're going to be looking for, the source that we're going to be looking for is the project file that we're in right now. But I gave it its own project name just to be safe. We're setting our upstream for the remote. We're making it public, and then we're also pushing all of the code that we committed already, all in one command. Oh, of course, I already have that as a name. So we will the events practice. You can still name it what it was before. It's just going to break for me because I already had that from doing my own practice and testing. So cool. Created the repo, added the remote, and pushed all the commits all in one command. Boom. It's like magic. And then just to make sure that it's live and good to go, we can do gh repo view -w. And that basically is just bringing up the website for us. And boom, we have a new repo created inside of GitHub. If you do not have this, or you're using the UI, I want to give you a couple of minutes to get the setup on your own, and then we'll move on to the Netlify part.
If we already set up a repo, but just like an empty one, can we still use the gh repo command and just not do the create in the name part?
Yeah, you should be able to. You might have to add a couple of different flags because you're going to want to set the command to that repo. You're probably better off at this point just having it create the new repo for you. Yeah, just so that it avoids some of that headache.
What is the -w doing in the GitHub repo view?
That's just opening it up in the web view.
Oh,
so
okay.
if you do it without the -w, it basically just gives you the info of what the repo creation looks like inside of the terminal. But I feel like it's a little bit better to see it in the web view.
Thank you.
Yep. Taking some notes here real quick. All right. Everybody feeling good to move on to the Netlify deploy? I think we're looking good. All right, we're gonna move on. Cool. So first thing we're gonna want to do here, and this is gonna be a few prompts that we're gonna have to go through. So just I actually listed out the answers that you're going to want to be giving these prompts here as well. So just get through the prompts. And honestly, a lot of the work is done from just this Netlify init command. So you can do Netlify init, and another really cool little tidbit, you do NTL, and your CLI will know that you're trying to use the Netlify CLI as well. So you can do NTL init, and it'll work very similarly. So we're going to want to create and configure a new site, add it to your team. I leave that undefined. Your build command undefined because it should be built inside of the TOML. I was having a little bit of an issue last night with this. So if you get to the end of this and your build is failing, I have a note at the end here so that we can just redeploy to prod and it will clobber whatever failed deploy we had before with the successful one. And you'll see here, it adds the deploy key. So we have this .netlify folder that gets created that gives you a state.json. Here's your site ID. And this is how Netlify will be able to connect to your repo when using the CLI. And it knows exactly which site that you're trying to keep up with so that every time you push, you're getting that CI/CD flow built in. So yeah, I'm getting the failed. So I'm assuming that's probably what we're all going to have to do. I don't know why. I think what happens is that it's trying to run npm run build and then gets to the TOML and is like, I am going to run npm run build. And it, for some reason, fails to do that. Mine didn't fail. You're better than I. Apparently, I am fumbling around here. So that's good to hear. Boom. We love that. Cool. So again, like I said here, I actually have a note at the bottom. If something was wrong with the initial linking of your code, try to run a new production deploy. So we'll do an NTL deploy -- prod. And as you'll see here, it goes through a few kind of steps here. Looking for our functions, finishing the hashing, getting the CDN set up for you, uploading any assets, and then deploying. You'll see you have a deploy URL, which is for your deploy preview. So if you're working in branches as you build this out, it'll give you your deploy preview branches. But then you get also your website URL right here. And boom, live sites. I feel like this is probably working for everybody else and we can move on. Does anybody have any issues? No, looking good, looking good. Cool. All right. So yeah, less than 10 commands, push to GitHub, live on Netlify, all good to go. these are all doable inside of the UIs as well. So if you're not a CLI person and you'd like to mess around in the UIs, these are very simple to get set up in those UIs. I can share some notes later on how to deploy to Netlify in the UI. GitHub we all use every day probably, so I don't need to teach anybody that. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions after or end up wanting to use the UI. I have some good notes for that. Let's get back to that. Okay, cool. So moving on to part 6. Everybody good to go? Looking good? Great.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. My boy Jesse. Always, you know what? I'm usually the hype man. Jesse, you always make me feel hype. I appreciate you.
Man, I will be your hype wingman.
I love that. I love everything you're saying. So cool. We're actually going to dive into creating a component inside of Nunchucks. They call them partials. You'll see them written about as partials when you look through the documentation. I call them components, same interchangeable ideology. I'm just used to it again from building inside of React so much that this is the terminology that fits kind of into what I do. And you'll see I actually call it components inside of the file structure. You're more than welcome to call them partials. I've seen them called partials out in the wild. Components just make me feel a little bit more comfortable with understanding like this is reusable pieces of component code that we're going to be utilizing. So inside of here, you'll see we'll want to go to source includes components, and then we'll create a new navbar. Oh, interesting. Navbar.nunjucks file. Right, Netlify got me blushing. Netlify thinks Tyrell Chambers is great. I mean, you can't get better than a compliment coming from your URL. So you're going to see something a little new here. So up here, you see this set link list and then an array of links. So this is a really cool thing that Nunjucks allows you to do, which is variable setting, the same as you would want to do in any other kind of like JavaScript based code. Variable setting is really useful. We now have one place that our links can live. And as we grow, if we do grow the site any, we can just add our new links as an object here and keep it moving. So let's go ahead and set up that. What's our time looking like? 12:30. What time is our end?
Our end is 1, but we can go to 1:10.
1. Okay. We've only got 3 more steps left, or 2 or 3 more steps left. So I'm gonna just keep it pushing with coding this out, and then let you guys take some time. If you want to copy and paste, and you want me to just keep it moving, so we make sure that we get to end, I'm happy to do that as well. But for now, I'll just start typing it out and code along with me if you'd like. So one of the most frustrating things in writing Nunjucks is doesn't always autocomplete when you're doing things like adding variables. So it's a little bit different than you're usually used to, probably the double brackets. The Nunjucks configuration for setting variables inside of your code files is this bracket %sign. Took a little bit of getting used to, but very similar to how a lot of people are building out their variables and other things. Look how nice GitHub Copilot is. It really wants to help me. I appreciate that. How's everybody else feeling about Copilot? Has anybody else got the chance to use it? I know it just went paid.
We generally, I think a lot of us used it, enjoyed it. It's just a question of who wants to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to pay for it, but I think that's super fair. It's one of those things where like the things that it does help you with, the headaches like writing regex or, setting up like things that what I really like is it knows your project. So when you're trying to build stuff within your project and reference other files and variables, it knows what you're trying to reference most of the time and saves you a few clicks. But I don't think that it would like destroy anybody's workflow to not have Copilot. I missed the fancy autocomplete, never tried it. Adam convinced me. Yeah, I somehow squeezed into the don't have to pay for GitHub Copilot. I don't know how beats me on what happened there, but I'm gonna keep using it as long as they keep it free for me. So we're setting up a URL to a link that we don't have yet. It's just for coming later. This will be our events page that we'll be utilizing to source our Discord events from. So for now, we'll just set that up. And then we're going to create our navbar. We'll come back to the classes in a second. Look at it. It's like, look at what it wants to do for, you know what? We're going to use it. So we've got our for link list, LI, cool. It's all looking good. We'll set up some classes. Actually, we'll just copy and paste those in time. If you're not used to looking at Tailwind, or if you've ever used something like Shocker UI or any of those kind of like design system based component libraries, it just kind of makes it a little bit easier to write out some quick CSS. I don't love using utility tools like this all of the time. I think that it really depends on the project that you're utilizing it inside of. But for workshop based code, I think Tailwind is really hard to beat for how easy it is to kind of get set up and start utilizing. All right. So here's our nav bar. Let's get rid of this terminal for a second. Here's our nav bar. And then the only thing that we're going to need to do is go ahead back to our base layout. And we're going to want to include the component inside of there. This is how you would usually, for other frameworks, you would usually go import your code and then call the component. Here, you just actually include it, and it immediately kind of imports it in and includes it inside of your layout for you. So we'll go to source includes layouts base.nunjux. And in here, right above our main, we will throw in our nav bar. And then are we still running? Yep, looks like we're still running. Let's head on over. As you can see, our welcome is behind our nav bar. We haven't done any styling to pull that out, but we're getting rid of that pretty soon. But if all goes well, I mean, you're going to have a broken events page, but you should have a nav bar at the top with 2 links showing. If not, let me know in the chat or raise your hand and we can help you get triage for that. Otherwise, we can move on to 7 and 8 is going to be where most of our headache code comes from. We're going to be building out the data file. We're going to be utilizing Netlify. So this will be where probably most of our time will be spent, and kind of why we've copied and pasted through a little bit of this to hurry up and get through. Everybody feeling good? Everybody ready to move on to the next step? Cool. And if you're feeling super behind, if there's anybody, I know we have a lot of muted folks in here. I know how it can get really stressful once you're like 4 steps behind and everybody is way ahead of you. Feel free to stop me at any time and ask any questions if you need them. It's been pretty straightforward up to this point. So anything that's breaking is probably not your fault. And so, you know, feel free to let me know. If not, we're going to move on to stage 7 right here. So we're going to be using our global data files in not 1 TTY, but 11D to fetch scheduled events from Discord. I added a bunch of information here for some details on like how the data cascade works inside of 11D, what your expectations would be. Linked off to a really great article from Ben covering a little bit more of a detailed explanation for folks who are wondering about how the data cascade works and what that looks like in the long run. We're not going to dig too much deeply into that now. But I wanted to add it in there just for folks to have a little bit of context on why the heck we're doing what we're about to do. One of the really cool things we talked about earlier, right? Like, so 11D looks to this includes file for things like partials. You'll see eventually we'll get to a thing called a macro, which is like a special component, but that takes kind of like props or arguments to fill out the data inside of the macro. It also has the convention of looking for this data folder. There are many ways that you can build data files inside of 11D. You can use JSON files, you can use Nunjux files, you can use regular JS files, which we'll be using to do some fetching. But there are a bunch of different ways and data sets that you can plug into the data cascade, and 11D will pull them for you. So as you'll see here, we have a new file called events.js inside of our source_data. So let's go ahead and create that. As you'll notice earlier, we installed our node fetch. So we'll just call fetch from there. And we will require .env. So earlier we talked about having the .env file to put your things inside of. I'm okay with showing mine. Where the heck? Give me 1 second. Forgot I saved it in a different project. So all you're going to need is the Discord guild ID and your Discord bot token. Then we will do a module.exports, which will be our async function. And in here, we're going to do our usual, we'll get our response from our fetch. And this is where we're going to be utilizing the Discord API and our bot finally. Let's just, save some time. And you'll see I left a console log in there just to make sure that when we are fetching our data, we're getting something back. Something that you're going to hit a lot in dev mode is a warning about rate limits. So if you see a rate limit error, just give it a few seconds. You will get things back. Another thing that seems like I forgot to mention inside of the project setup, in your guild, go ahead and create an event right now. Have the event ready so that we have some test data to pull from. So to do that, you're just going to want to go to events. You can also go up top here and it'll say create event inside of your Discord. So you create the event. You can just fill in kind of dummy data. All right. So we'll just do Domitrius.dev and set up your event topic. Again, none of this really matters. Fill in the info just so that when we do grab the data from Discord, we are getting something back so we can show it on the screen. But this will be basically a test case, and we'll get all of this metadata back when we call this endpoint. I'm getting an error here. I was probably trying to build. Oh, it's because I never put my invocation. Interesting. Cool. Now we should be good to go. Cool. All right. So to make sure that that works, we are going to want to create a nunjuk macro, which is going to be our event card, so that we're actually invoking the data. So what we can do is we can create our new events page inside of our source. So source, create a new file. It'll be events.nunjuks. And then in here, we are going to, we'll just grab some basic markup, make sure that our page works. Cool. Oh, and we forgot to, one thing we want to add here is our front matter. So similar to before, we'll do our title. This will be events, and layout will be layouts/base.nunjuks. And bang, cool. So we have our nav bar showing up now. We can navigate between our pages. Great. And we are showing on the events page. I'm going to give everybody a second to kind of catch up. We kind of moved to that pretty quickly. So I want to make sure that everybody's good to go on 7 and 8. We won't be able to see our console log logging any data until we actually start trying to pull the data from the cascade. So that's why we moved on pretty quickly to creating the nunjuks macro. We're looking like we got about 23 minutes left if we do push till 1:10. So we're actually looking pretty good on time. Everybody feeling good about 7 and into 8, creating our new events page? Yes, great.
I missed out on how to create an event on Discord.
Yeah, no problem. So if you go to your server, inside of your server, you can click the top drop down, create event, use the somewhere else, and just add any, it literally can be any link. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It could be to google.com if you'd like. I'll put add in an event name and a little description. We don't have to worry about the cover image. You can pull cover images from your events as well. But we don't have to worry about that right now. We just want the title in the description so that when we pull the data, there is some left.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Everybody feeling good? Cool.
It's up, it's alive.
All right. Yeah, got some more explanation of kind of the things that we're going to be caring about from the data, from the event object that's coming back. It gives you a ton of metadata. It's really great. Lets you know if it's inside or outside of the Discord. There's a lot of stuff that you can do inside of the UI to make sure that we're pulling the data that we want and linking people to where we want them to go, which I think is like the really, really cool case of using scheduled Discord events as your kind of event aggregator on a community platform. So you'll see here, Nunjux also allows you to do UI loops, similar to how you would do them in other frameworks, but with the Nunjux convention of having that bracket % sign that we saw before. So we'll do for event in events, which will basically just be saying for all of the events that happen, we want to render a single event per card. And this will, we can just put this right inside of the events page for now. So let's dig a little bit into what's going on with this code block here. So again, you'll see where we're injecting variables with this double brackets. So when we're trying to get variables inside of the Nunjux code itself, you'll see that we're just using event, right? Which is pretty interesting. Actually, so you see how we say for event in events. We're kind of wondering like, where the heck is this events variable even coming from? This is how the data cascade works. So inside of our data file, we have this events.js folder. It creates the variable based on the file name. So whatever you name that file is what the variable is going to be called inside of the Nunjux file. So in this case, it's events. So you're seeing we have for event and events. So then that's where we get these individual event variables from what we're creating inside of this data file here. And then we've just got some kind of boilerplate styling just so that it looks a little bit nicer. And then you'll see here, we've also got an if block inside of our Nunjux code, which allows us to conditionally render inside of Nunjux as we do in a lot of our other frameworks. From here, we're going to move on to creating a macro. I do want to give everybody a second. I'm assuming other folks are probably also copying and pasting to get to the next level. So if I could just get a few thumbs up, we can move on to the macro and start to learn about how we can do like reusable components. Cool. I see one. Jesse, where's them finger guns at? All right, that's my man. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, they're coming. We're here.
Great. That's all I like to hear. Cool. So let's go back real quick to our events page. Are we getting any errors? Message 401 unauthorized. Wonder if it reset my token. Give me 1 second, y'all. You all should be fine since you're just setting up the bot. This is a bot.
I got 401 also.
You got the 401 also?
That's the same thing. Yeah.
Everyone else is getting 401. Cool. All right. Let me triage that on my side real quick. .env should be good. Go back to our events. Let's actually clear out all these files from up here. Let's get rid of this real quick. A little cluttered. Events, process guild ID, Discord bot token. We've got those in our .env. Or guild ID, Discord bot token. I'm wondering if my bot token reset. Gotta love when this happens. Helper portal, workshop. Guild ID. Seven, great. Discord bot token. Message unauthorized. Very strange. Bot. I'm gonna reset my token again. Got 2FA, so it's gonna be annoying. Off. Is everyone getting an unauthorized as well, or is it just a few of us?
Mine is working fine in that
It is
regard.
working fine. Yeah.
Listen, I'll take that as a W. So just in the context of time, let's come back to this in a second. I just want to get the folks who are successful kind of moving forward. And then I'll try and triage what the unauthorized problem is, and then we can kind of circle back to that. I'm going to go around the route of resetting my bot token. I think that might be the problem here. If you all want to do that, who are having issues as well, to try and triage. But basically, the next thing that we're going to want to work on is moving this into a macro. So before we created the navbar partial, right, that allowed us to just have a reusable bit of code that we can use when we want to. A macro specifically allows us to put new kind of arguments into a component and utilize those variables as we go. So what we'll want to do is we'll go to source includes components. And we'll create, it's the same as you would create anything else. So you'll do event card.nunjux. Doesn't have any other conventions except for inside of the file. You're going to have this bracket % macro. This is the name of your macro right here. And then whatever data we want to pass to that macro. So that inside of here, we're going to get this kind of really nice, similar to what we have out here. And we can actually delete this now. You can just move it in as well. So we're going to keep the loop. We're going to move out the markup. We're going to go into here. We'll grab the macro and end macro. In this instance, I do have the image set up for you. It's a little bit wonky how Discord does images. They basically have their own CDN that they put everything behind, and you have to grab what they give you back in the object for the event. And folks who are successful are seeing the event object. You can get this image, but it only comes with the ID. It actually doesn't give you the entire link. It only comes with the ID. So you have to append the ID yourself. You can delete this part since a lot of us probably aren't using cover images right now. I just wanted to include this for folks. I had to Google around to find this. But bring this over, paste it into your event card. I'm going to delete the image. I don't have a cover image for mine.
I put an image in mine. It works great.
Cool. Great. And then back on the base import, it's a little bit different with macros. So before you saw, we just included the navbar component. Here, we're going to want to import so that we have an access to a variable that allows us to get to the macro, right? So back in our events page, we're going to import the components /event card.nunjux as event card. So here's our new component. And then in here, we just go bracket event card.card, right? And so we named it card here. So whatever you name this component is what this is. It's going to be variable dot whatever you named your component. And then you pass it in the event. All right. And save. And then for folks who this is working for, you should now see your event the same way as you did before, but now you have it as a macro, as a reusable macro. You can bring this event card to any other pages that you have, and it'll work just fine. And this is a little bit of overkill for what we're working on right now, but I really wanted to show you some of the cool features that Nunjux has built in, so that you had a little bit more of a feel of what you can do and the power behind using something like Nunjux. I'm going to get back to giving y'all a second to catch up on this. I'm going to try and triage what's going on with my bot. And then we only have one more One more section left. If you are ahead and you're sitting here twiddling your thumbs, you're more than welcome to move on to section 9. Section 9 is a bit of a lengthy one as well. We're going to be setting up our on-demand builders with 11D serverless and Netlify. So you can go ahead and dig in. Again, like I said, I have all the description ready and written out for you so you can move on. I'm going to try and get this working and triage it with some of the folks that have also gotten the unauthorized. Let's see. Let's grab this new token. Grabbing a new token here. And don't worry, I'm going to reset all of my tokens after this so that, you know, this is going to go live and then suddenly I'm going to be getting like bot spammed in my Discord.
I was about to ask you, how do you feel about your tokens being in production on a live production?
That's totally fine. I knew what I was getting into. I'm brave for the worst. I've already shown the .m file enough times that I'm getting doxxed, so it's okay.
We appreciate you, Dom, and we will I'll see if we can do some blur in post for you.
Oh wow. Missing access. How am I missing access? Why do you do this to me, Discord? Interesting. 726. Has anybody reset their token and gotten it working? Or is everybody still kind of stuck on that same part? What the heck did my Zoom chat go? Does anyone else have an undefined event? Got my template working. The event card, there's a mix up and a link. Mine is on line 30. What was the error you ran into, Linda? Mix up and then the link.
So on part 8 in the I don't know where it came from. When I copied the macro card thing, the anchor tag for the location added an extra quote after the opening double brackets.
You see what I'm saying about Notion and Discord is out together. This is like, where did my commas go earlier? These are the questions I'm asking. You know?
And it was telling me the events template wasn't rendering, but it was because the quotes got mixed up on that anchor tag. And now
I
it
also
works. And I
had a similar issue, but with the image instead, where there's a trailing slash after the PNG, so it wasn't rendering the image.
Oh.
These are good notes.
That's
Thank you
so
very much,
weird.
Jamie. Remove trailing slash you dingus.
Well, it adds it in implicitly. I think because it's like not quoted or something. Like if I had to add quotes around the source attribute value, and then only then like did it start working properly.
This is the fun. I love live workshops because you get to enjoy all of the ins and outs of copy and pasting. So I did end up getting my event working. It was just the Discord bot token that I was having an issue with. So folks who were having an issue before, reset your token, re-put that back in, and you should be good to go. So I saw on step 9, I'm having issues with redirects not generating in the TOML file. One of the things it's at the bottom, so I'm unsure if you might have missed it, but here, this permalink events to /events is what helps Netlify target this as a serverless route.
So I did do that, but it does a curious behavior where it seems to like iterate over that events value, and like whenever it's like iterating over the macro for the events, it's like inputting each character individually for /event/. And I don't know why it's doing that.
Interesting.
It's like treating it like the input to the template.
Yeah, let's see if I run into that as well. Okay, moving on to 9. If anybody else has any issues with that unauthorized error, I would say just follow along, watching until we get to the end. It's definitely a bot token error that you're running into. So going through that should help fix it. Let's quickly just add this plugin to our 11e config. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Got some info here. So when we save, it should go back to our events page, and inside of the events page, we'll add the permalink. Get some errors. Fatal stacker reference 11e serverless bug. Did I not? Oh, it's because I didn't require it. What a dingus. Try and restart that dev server again. Boom, we're looking good. And as you'll see here, our function generates a bunch of files. Another thing that we're going to want to do that I might have, I definitely forgot to mention. I love that. If you go to github.com/Demetrius Clark /definitely not 11D. You'll see in our git ignore, you're going to want to add this part right here. I'll copy and paste that into the into here. Put towards the top.
Oh, is that what's causing the repeating list?
What was that?
The repeating list of events on that page, is that what's causing that? Because your page has got it now too.
Yeah, I've been having that issue right there.
Interesting.
Event
card. Interesting.
As soon as I had the permalink, it's like, yep.
Is it because I am supposed to put quotes around events? Is that any being rate limited? So we got to wait a second. Still doing it. Very weird. Let's go back. It's always nice to have like a working repo, right? Let's go to events. Let's just compare our events page for event in events, event card, event. Got our macro looking fine. Yeah, it looks identical as well. Oh, I wonder why it's doing that. Let's go. Let's do this real quick. Let's change the one thing we know we have to change. So if you go, once your function is generated, again, we're just going to have to triage this a little bit. Once your function is generated, you'll have this index.js file inside of your Netlify functions, and then it should be Netlify functions events. Yep, Netlify functions events. If you go in there and go down to the index, you have an exports.handler. We're going to want to use the builder. So we can just uncomment that and comment out the regular handler. Just one of the steps in 9. I don't think it's going to fix a problem that we're having, but just weird because it's only coming back as one. It's just rendering it a bunch of times. Let me see. Is it something that we did inside of the data file? Oh, wait, that's good. As a JSON, return the data. We're getting the data back correctly as one object. Very weird. Why must our life be this way? So sorry about this, y'all. Very strange. I'm going to add that ignore file in real quick. Which is in our ignore. Grab that. We just want to ignore all the files inside of the functions directory besides the index.js file in here. So we want to keep this, all of this bundler and 11D serverless stuff. We're okay to leave. I think it'll work if I clean that up. For me, it's an issue with the macro. If I put the code back in the events file, it works. You know what? Let's just put it right back into the events file and hope for the best. Yeah, I don't know why that macro is not working. It worked last night when I did it. Look, it's still. Come on now. Why are you doing this to me? Let's get rid of this. Why you do this? False, you're being rate limited. We love that. Great. Huh, it's still doing it when I pulled it out. Very weird. Well, I jinxed it. I blame you, Tyrell. Yes, 100%. Yeah, very, very strange. I do not know why it is doing that to the events rendering. Well, we're already past time. So sorry that we get all the way to the end and it breaks. If it did not break, I see we've got Tyrell working for them. If there's others that it did not break for, you should be able to push your code again and then deploy it to prod and see these events live. One of the things that we didn't get to was adding the TTL to our on-demand builder config. I'll leave some notes on how to finish that up so that you can do that on your own time. Again, thank you all so much for bearing with me through some of the challenges that we had in here. I hope you at least learned a bit about 11D, how easy it is to get started with Netlify and 11D. And one of the really cool things I like the most, which is coming out of Discord with a new, possibly self-managed community platform. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I wanted to come from here is, you know, we learned some tech stuff, but one of the things that I really want folks to be able to do is grab all of their events and start pushing out into having a self-hosted community platform. I think it's time to move on from the platforms that exist. And everybody always says, own your content, own your community as well as much as you can, and make sure that it grows. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time that you spent with me. And if there's any questions that you have after, any more screw ups you find inside of my Notion, please let me know, especially when this is going to go live. Other people are going to want to not be able to break. So definitely let me know. And thank you again, y'all.
Dom, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate everything you showed us today. I think we all learned a lot more about Discord, a lot more about 11D. I think, let's keep the conversation going on Twitter. That's one of the things we do. Where can we didn't do this at the beginning, but where can people find you on Twitter, Dom?
I will throw it in the chat. Twitter.com/Demetrius Clark. Basically any platform. Not twitty.com, twitter.com/Demetrius Clark. Any platform that you're going to look up, GitHub, Twitter, it'll be the same, Demetrius Clark. So you can find me on those platforms.
Amazing. Dom, thank you again for, all good. Thank you again for being here today. Everybody else, thank you for joining us. We'll post the lovely Notion and any of the updated instructions. Let's continue the conversation on Twitter, figure out where this bug came from, and debug it together on the Twitterverse.
That's going to be me all over it as soon as I get the heck out of here.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again and have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you again for having me.